You serious? You miss your Ollie and we'll be sending you back to Jersey in a coffee can.
Todd said he wanted something big. This is it.
I personally have never been a huge fan of sports games. I can understand the appeal of them and how it simulates the professional side of all the sports we've grown up with, but my attention has always been towards other game genres as I grew up. And in the case of playing a sport, that was something that I actually enjoyed more than playing a game version of it. In saying that though, there is also another side of sports that is of a different dimension. You don't see it that often, and the ones that do it are at far more risk than even combat sports, where sustained injuries are guaranteed. I'm talking about extreme sports. When people refer to it, they usually think more along the lines of skateboarding, rock climbing, wingsuit gliding, snowboarding, trail biking, and so on. These type of sports are on the extreme end because of the thrilling nature behind them, and how much closer people are on the edge of death or serious injuries. It's something that most people would never want to do, but usually entertain the idea of it in their own heads. Thanks to video games, however, we've been able to simulate the experience without any physical effects whatsoever. All of the risk and repeatable mistakes that can lead to disastrous results have been reduced to data in the form of video games. Earlier releases, like the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series, brought players closer to feeling like Tony Hawk himself, one of the most renowned and recognized skateboarders of all time, who inspired many other kids to pick up a board and do their first Ollie. As for me and my brother, he was more into it than I was, while I played around with scooters and BMX bikes, which is where I eventually discovered the game Dave Mirra's Freestyle BMX 2, which was a childhood game of mine and was someone that was the BMX equivalent of Tony Hawk's at the time. But time passed on and I eventually gravitated towards other things, and I would come full circle by revisiting Pro Skater 1 and Underground 1 later on, and would also latch onto other extreme sports games too. They're the only type of sports games that I personally enjoy and come back to from time to time whenever I need a break from one genre or another. In the 2000s, they were quite popular and then went dark. But thanks to other releases like Steep, Riders Republic, Shredders, Session Skate Sim, Skater XL, the Skate series, and Descenders, the genre has been making a comeback, providing a fun and thrilling experience not unlike the racing genre. We play lots of games to escape or to explore other worlds, but extreme sports games are different because they are in fact possible. We play tons of games where we end up doing things that are impossible or impractical to do. We're not going to be the Doomslayer and kill demons throughout time immemorial, or create cities in the blink of an eye. But any one of us could go out and learn how to skateboard or go on a skiing trip, take rock climbing courses, go for a skydive, you name it. We see the very best of them do the extreme runs or climbs, and yet it's not exactly out of reach either. It just takes practice and time like anything else. When you go for a minute in the sky during a skydive, it's an ethereal experience that's hard to find anywhere else. When you pull off a successful grind or trick on the skateboard, it feels amazing. When you ride down a trail in the mountains on your bike or descend successfully with a wingsuit, you get close to a euphoric state. In video games, the effect isn't as potent, but it's still incredibly fun to do, and you can usually just chill and snowboard casually in steep or ride down some accessible paths in Descenders. They can be a great way to introduce people into not only the genre, but as an activity to do in real life. It's not without its dangers, however, and there are good reasons why not everyone does it. A tackle in football is one thing, cramps in rugby are no joke, but some of the accidents in extreme sports are horrifying. If a wingsuit jump goes wrong or if you veer off a cliff in the snowy mountains, you're pretty much gone. Skateboarding and parkour have their own risks as well, and if you don't know what you're doing, then you shouldn't be jumping across higher rooftops. Extreme sports games allow us to take any risk we want, pushing boundaries endlessly without any danger to ourselves, other than the virtual character we're playing as, of course. And the best part is, it's still possible. Well, mostly anyways. But the point is that almost anyone can go and do this. You don't need to escape into a reality and dream about it. You can do it right now if you wanted to. Doing just any of these activities or playing these games does give off an incredible feeling of adrenaline. It's like that first time when you went to a theme park and went on your first wild ride. It's brief, but you've never experienced anything like it. And when it's over, you develop the desire to do it again and chase that same high. Extreme sports is full of moments like that. The combination of speed and skill and high risk puts people on the razor's edge unlike any other sport out there. And some people in the extreme sports community have a heroin mentality towards it, where they can actually get depressed or experience withdrawals if they're away from the activity long enough. In the video game format, there's a common element between the two, between that and real life anyways, and it's that both can be equally addictive. But for people, one can be more so than the other, and the endless pursuit to challenge themselves never goes away. But on the other camp, like say in video games, people are content to just play these type of games and enjoy the chill and somewhat relaxing vibe that they all create. You can sweat it out, break records, or hold on to insane combos, or you could just muck around in Riders Republic and go from BMX to parachuting in a heartbeat. Or you could go to the older era of extreme sports games like the Tony Hawk series and get an arcade experience. Now while those days in particular are over, they're fondly remembered, and they're still great games. While other people nowadays get to look forward to newer and more realistic experiences, Session, Skate Sim and Shredders are some of the most realistic extreme sports games that I've played, and so far it's as close as you can get to having somewhat of a high without the loss of life, in extreme sports games anyways. And yes, to some extent racing could also be seen as an extreme sport, especially F1 back in its earlier years when there was less protection for the drivers. But even then, it's regulated with rules and guidelines. Extreme sports doesn't really have those. People will go as far as they want to go at their own risk, and while there are exceptions, like say in competitions where there are some rules and guidelines, most people that engage in extreme sports will go about their own activity the way they see fit. In games, the same is true. You have some freedom to play however you want, even though you're still bound by the game's logic. But at least you're safe from death. Some of the worst deaths or accidents in sports have come from more of the extreme sports side of things. It's not pretty, and those that have witnessed them wish they never did. It's a personal sport where you have to know what you're getting into. When you're that close to the edge, ever does the likelihood to go off the rails turn into a grim reality come. Extreme sports games allow repeatable mistakes to occur, no matter how gruesome or brutal the accident. The player will just revert back to their last position and try again. You can go through trial and error in the way extreme sports athletes cannot, where they have to police themselves sometimes if the activity is too risky. In the games though, who gives a shit? Go wild and risk all you want until you get better at it, and then do it again and again. People who have pumped thousands of hours into games like Skate 3 and Steep are pulling off outlandish combos because the mechanics allow them to do it, and they've played it enough to know how to stick the landing so that the character survives it. But if you do a wingsuit jump and then hit something in real life, there's no turning back from that. No chance to rewind the clock, and some of the few individuals in the world are willing to do this kind of stuff anyways and wouldn't trade it for anything. It's not for everyone, but extreme sports games are for everybody. At the end of the day, extreme sports games are incredibly fun and simulate the high-risk nature of these sports that some people in the world have chosen to do. They provide a level of therapy that can calm the senses, playing in a virtual world parallel to our own, where it's just as possible to do it as it is here, at least if you count the realistic ones anyways. Some games go off the beaten path though, like the Olli games or Cyberfunk Bombrush, but they are artistic reflections of something that is somewhat possible to do. Not to that extent, but still possible to do in real life. When people play games to escape, they escape from reality. In extreme sports games, you're only escaping from the fear of injury or death. It's a euphoric experience that not everyone understandably goes after, but it's another way to live life to the fullest. And extreme sports games are a reflection of that dream that can come true by just going out there into the world and doing it. Thank you for watching.